Mingling, we've got with us Frankie Boots. Not only is it a great name, but he's a hell of a talented guy, too.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Man, I love the way you keep that traditional sound alive.
Yeah, thank you.
Frankie, give our audience an opportunity to know your background. Where you born and raised?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Northern California, the Bay Area, a little town called Sebastopol, which is about 50 miles north of San Francisco in Sonoma County. And I was born there in Santa Rosa, which is just the next town over. So, I lived there for most of my life, and lived in San Francisco for a while, and then almost coming up on 3 years ago, moved down to New Orleans to just kind of get a little change of pace, and just felt
quite a culture shock.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Where
it was a big
music
change.
begin for you, though?
You know what? I was kind of a late bloomer, really, to tell you the truth. I didn't really start playing music until I was 30 when I played my first live, in front of an audience for the first time. So that was about, 9 years ago, 9 years ago.
So were you doing originals then? And
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so the music thing, started off, I started writing songs about 10 years ago. And then I didn't really perform in front of anybody for for the first few years of it. It was just kind of in my house, a buddy of mine. So I guess I should back it up a little bit. When I was about 13 or so, I started playing a guitar. It was at my grandma's house. And I got that guitar, learned some chords on it and stuff like that. And then once, my folks realized that it wasn't just like a passing phase, on I think maybe my 14th birthday, my dad gave me this old electric guitar and an amp. And that was pretty cool. And so I would play that, and I learned like some basic chords and stuff like that. But and I learned how to read some tablature, so I would pick up a little bit of that stuff, but I didn't really know the theory behind it. I didn't really know any full songs. I was just kind of like, I liked learning like the intro to like Little Wing or something like that, like that I just wanted to like learn these like little licks, and that was cool. And then when I was and I kind of put it down when I was 16, I just didn't play the guitar anymore for whatever reason. I just pursued
You got your driver's license.
Got my driver's license. Yeah. Started hanging out with girls and got real good at drinking there for a while. And, and doing that thing and just kind of being that guy. But then I really was thought I wanted to be a writer, like a novelist. I really enjoyed like writing prose and things like that, and just did that for a long time. And when I was about 27, I guess. A good buddy of mine who is a musician was like, hey man, like I know you got a guitar at home, like you should bring that thing over, let's hang out and play some music. I was like, all right, cool. And that just started off as just something to do, hanging out over at his house, and he had some recording equipment and stuff and showed me how to do some of that, and then I got some recording equipment, and then I just started writing some songs at home and really just fell in love with kind of
when you say you just started writing songs at home, how did that first begin?
Went pretty quick to it. It was more, I think I wrote a song before I learned a song. Like it was just once it might have been that same week that we all hung out. Once I kind of like got that bug again and started playing a little bit, I put together 4 chords and wrote a song that is actually on one of those albums over there, that I still play to this day.
So would you say your songwriting then was more melody driven that gave you the lyric?
At first it certainly was, yeah. So it would be in the beginning it would be, because you're just putting together chords, you're like, whoa, cool, if I go E minor to G and then D, what, C, and you're just kind of you're figuring out what works together.
Yeah.
And so once I would get a chord progression that looked good, I would just hear a melody. And then
but this same guy that likes to write prose, all of a sudden is putting chords together.
Right, exactly. And so that, and so I would hear, I'd hear like maybe mumble something or hear a word, from kind of a phrase, and then I would base it off of that. And that's how I did things for the first, few years, was kind of just, and I felt like I had a knack for it right away, where I could hear a vocal melody over some chords, and then come up, and then the word part was fun. And the words always came pretty easy for me. So that was cool. And, now I kind of almost do it in the opposite way a lot. Like a lot of the times what I do now is I write lyrics first or separate. and then I'll come up with like melody separate, because then, you know, I found that later on, melody and vocal melody and these things and these phrases and structures were keeping me wasn't able to fully explore things like lyrically as much as I wanted to. 'Cause sometimes when you just write,
You're making it fit.
you're making it fit, and like your brain is working in that way. Whereas it's like
You're
if
going to
you just
make
write
one
whatever,
or the other fit.
exactly,
Unless
exactly.
you get them both at the same time.
For sure,
Which
yeah,
is
which
kind of a
happens
rarity that
from
most
time to time, but
songwriters
not
do.
much, yeah. But, you know, it's like I try to write things in, you know, in somewhat of like of a structure, you know, not just like free form, but I have done that. But sometimes I just write in a structure, and if it doesn't fit the melody, then, you know, you cut a word out, do this, switch it up a little bit, and make something rhyme. But I find you just get a little more interesting kind of lyrical content that way, for me at least, you know.
In your family, do you have musical people?
No, not really. No, neither one of my parents played any music. My uncle played the drums, and he had taught me some of my first stuff on guitar. Like he showed me how to tune a guitar. He showed me a few chords. Showed me a couple Led Zeppelin licks. You know, like, so he knew his way around it. But he wasn't. You know, he played in bands in high school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you go from this guy that's putting the four chords in his prose together to all of a sudden moving to New Orleans and playing music professionally?
Right.
Yeah.
That was So basically, kind of was doing the self-recording at home was really where I kind of. I mean, there was just so much growth for me in that kind of realm, because I would do it every night, you know. Every single night I would be in there all night long, just like recording, trial and error, figuring stuff out, playing bass over stuff, you know. Like once I got a computer written, the whole rig and Logic and everything, going through EQ curves, reading books, like studying music theory, like all of this stuff, I just like immersed myself in it for a pretty hardcore
stuff you didn't want to touch when you first got those keys to the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it just wasn't. I mean, I always loved music, even when I wasn't playing it. I was like always the guy who was like, "Have you heard this band? We're going to this show." You know, I was always into that stuff and very, very passionate about music. But for whatever reason, I just had not put two and two together. You know, and I still really enjoy like writing prose and free form stuff. So. But once music came along, I just knew instantly, I was like, oh, this is what I should be doing, you know. And I really loved the fact that you could write something and it was done right then and there. You know, with other forms of writing, you know, it's this long, laborious process that can take years, you know, to get that done. Whereas it's like with a song, it was like, wow, I just wrote this, I go play this right now, and it was just instantaneous, you know.
That's a gift. Not everybody can do it.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean,
You're receiving.
Yeah.
You're receiving.
Yeah.
You know,
for
you're
sure.
a receptor.
Yeah, absolutely, you know, and just like having something material that's like right then and there is just real cool. And I found the same thing about the self-recording, because I could record that stuff. You know, the technology was there for me, where I could record it, I could put it on a CD, go play it in the car, show my friends, like, hey, this is a song I wrote, like, listen to this. I got very excited about that, and so with that came just a full immersion in it, you know, and just kind of a real crazy boot camp for about 3 years there of just doing that myself. And then came to the realization.
This in California? Or?
This is in California, yeah. And so I came to the realization that if I was going to take this to the next level, like, I mean, I'd put together, recorded 2 CDs at home and put them out. And like they were out like on iTunes, like through CD Baby and all that stuff like that. I had this stuff out and available to listen to, and had never played a live show, you know? And so I just came to the realization, I was like, oh, if this is what I'm doing, like, I need to start playing.
You need to promote yourself.
I need to play out.
Get out
Yeah.
there,
And that's just such a huge part of it, you know? And it's such a different thing than being in a studio.
And it's going to give you different songs.
For sure. Different songs, different feel, different chops,
The
like
road
different
will give you
experience.
that.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I had one buddy who played the drums, and so I hit him up, and he was not a music. I mean, like, he didn't even have a drum kit. Like, I went and bought a drum kit for him to play, you know. But he was good, and he could play. And so we had him, and then it was real weird because growing up, I didn't hang out with a lot of musicians. You know, I didn't know the local music scene in Sonoma County where I was from, so it was just being this new guy who was like there, and I didn't know anybody. So it took a minute, and I found a fellow who's still a great friend of mine who played on all these records, for the most part, and he played upright bass, and he played, and electric bass, and he was a fantastic bass player, still is. His name is Zach Sumner, and so he kind of became my guy, and we started playing some duo shows together, and just kind of got going on that. I had a little trio thing, and through him I met some other people, and how it goes, and eventually, that's about 2012. I made a couple other friends in the scene, some other songwriters, one of whom happened to play banjo and mandolin, and then we started playing some shows together, and eventually he started just playing banjo and mandolin with me, same with another gal, and she started singing with me, and then we had the bass player, he knew a drummer, we had the drummer, and then
you had a band,
and
by
then
God.
also, and then we had a band, and once we had a band,
keeping the band,
and it was cool, and so it was just a whole different life path, to be going down at 29, 30 years
still
old.
In California at this point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What takes you to New Orleans?
Well, so a couple of different factors were there. So one was I was 35, had been playing around town, had been playing music in California for a solid 4 years, kind of seriously, and I love California very dearly, and I love my hometown where I came from, but I definitely felt like there's not as many places to play back there, especially in the area where I grew up. It's not as many people. The West is just, everything is super expansive and far apart. So it's you're touring, you're driving 6-7 hours a day. The gas is super expensive. It's hard to do out there. Whereas it's as down here, there's music everywhere. People really support live music down in the South and Texas especially, and you can really drive an hour and a half, 3 hours, do these little routes. So that was something that I just felt, I don't want to say I felt like I hit a plateau or something there, because that's not true. I still go back there, and there's obviously a lot of cool places to play and people to play too, but I just felt like I was at a point where I wanted to do something different. I felt kind of I needed to expand my horizons a little bit, just for inspiration wise even. And also I was 35, and I didn't really have intentions of always living in California. I was I want to live in another part of the country, experience some different things. And at 35, I was man, when is this going to happen? If it's not going to happen right now, it's not going to get any easier to move away from here. Once I start getting a little bit older and going in my 40s and stuff. So, I just fell in love with New Orleans as well. And my fiance and I were talking about it one day, and I was on tour down in New Orleans. She came down to visit me, and we kind of hung out down there for a few days, and we're we should move down here, And it's cool because I still go back to California all the time. I still have a band back there. I still play a lot of shows back there. About once every 3 or 4 months, I go back. And that's fine, because that's about how much I was playing in the Bay Area, or at least in the North Bay, where I'm from. I was playing about once every 3 months or so with the full band. So, I still go back there, and it's great, and it makes the shows a little more special. I feel like the fact that I'm not there, and so I'll tour. We go play Reno and stuff, and go up to Oregon and down to LA, and just it's. This day and age with social media and all that stuff, it's easy to stay connected to people, So you don't have to necessarily be in one place to always make it work, touring wise. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So you're New Orleans based now, but you're fixing to go out and hit the road. And tell us about that.
Well, so the cool thing about living down in New Orleans is that you can. One, there's a ton of really great players there, which was also another thing that was a struggle sometimes in California, was that in at least the area where I'm from in the North Bay, there was great players, but there's not a ton of them. Some of that contributing factor is the fact that it's extremely expensive to live there. It's, in the Bay Area.
All the time.
It's crazy, yeah. It's, it's just people are fighting over paying $1,000 a month for a room, It's just...
Wow.
It's insane, and so a lot of the times people are leaving, and a lot of artists and stuff are moving out, and so it makes it hard for people to afford it, and therefore, I know a few great drummers, but there's a few great drummers in that area, and everybody wants to play with them, you know.
Right.
And so, but you go down to New Orleans, there's
They're on
a
every
ton
street
of great.
corner,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like you throw a rock. Which one do you want? You know? There's tons of them, and so that's been really good. Yeah, and the touring is a lot easier out of there, and so I've just been doing a lot of that and kind of hitting the road in the South. Doing a full band run with in a couple weeks up to Nashville and Asheville and Atlanta, and doing some.
So
of
have
that.
you put another band together in New Orleans to travel with? So you have
Yeah.
a separate group out in
Yep.
California.
Yeah. I got my little franchises, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have the big question of the day.
Yeah.
When are you getting married?
June 22nd.
Yay!
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
3 days after my birthday.
Oh, isn't
it's
it
a
nice?
good omen.
Yeah, for sure. It's a beautiful time of the year.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm
In New
very
Orleans?
excited. No, we're getting married back in California. My fiance is also from the same area that I'm.
Hannah
grew up in.
Nicole?
Hannah Noel.
Noel.
Yeah. Hannah Noel Wyckoff. Yeah.
So I got to ask you one quick question about New Orleans.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the Camellia Grill?
I don't know if I've been there.
Oh, my God. We got to talk.
That's the thing is there's so many places to go. Yeah, everybody's got their spot.
We got to talk.
We got to talk.
Oh,
Tell
yeah.
me. Lay it on
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you in here this
It's been
evening,
my honor.
and I
Thank
look
you so
forward to
much.
seeing you again next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
We're going to
absolutely.
get him back here with Michael Prysock if Michael will agree to it, and I think he will.
Yeah, I would love to play with Michael
Yeah,
again. He's a great
yeah.
dude, man. Yeah.
But best of luck to you
Thank
on
you.
your wedding
Oh,
and
thanks.
this tour and everything. And
I appreciate it.
we'll keep in touch for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I want to thank our audience for tuning in, and all I can say is keep on coming back because we have so many great things to offer you with the great artists we have in the music room.
And you are in the music room.
Yes, you are.
Yep.